Think
Gordon, no music selection yet?
I couldn't pipe it in.
Okay.
Gordon, you are now the host.
Perfect. We'll get another couple of minutes just so that a few people just allow more to join in because it's pretty bit busy. Give it 2 minutes. And thanks and welcome to everybody who has joined. Okay, guys, we're going to get this started in the next couple of seconds. I think everyone can see us here on Zoom, and I think this is definitely going to go viral on YouTube as well. 5 things to know before implementing Odoo. So I'm just going to share my screen now, and we will kick things off. Here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you very much for taking the time out to join us today. I'm Gordon Cooney. I'm a business development manager here at Targeted Integration, and I'll be co-hosting this with my colleague Kostas Paraskev. Excuse me, I always get me wrong. He is the implementation manager here at Targeted Integration. He's an Odoo expert as well. He's been working within Target Integration and Odoo for 6 years. So he really knows stuff about this and what questions to ask yourself before taking, I suppose, taking on a task like this. But before we do that, what I'm going to do is give you an introduction to us as a company, a little bit more about Odoo as well, and then I'll pass it over to Kostas, who will go a lot more in depth. So just to kick things off, so who are we and what we do? So Target Integration, we have been around for 14 years. It was set up by our CEO, Rohit Thakral, with the goal that every business should be able to leverage the insights to their full potential, no matter what they are. Our offices, we have our global HQ in City West campus in Dublin. We have a sales office and a back-end office in Birmingham and Hampstead in the UK. We're based in all major cities in India, New Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Gurgaon. We're currently setting up a presence in San Francisco, and we have a development center in Greece where Kostas is actually joining us from too, where it is currently about 40 degrees and he's sweating like hell. But with all this talent and this is presence throughout the globe, it allows us to give a perfect mix of quality and value too. So what we do, so we are essentially, we are an ISO 27001 and 9001 certified company. And essentially what we do is we help businesses achieve their potential by digitizing their processes. Some numbers that we're very proud of, we have currently over 4,000 customers globally. We have nearly 6,000 projects completed globally as well. And as you saw there, we have 8 offices and 4 locations too. Now, this is a snapshot of the team. Currently, there's over 100 people within the organization. So this is a very small snapshot. As you can see, Kostas is there, looking well. I'm there as well, not looking as good at all. Probably never see a worse picture of me. But whoever works with us in the future, they always get to know more names and faces throughout their journey. And that's exactly what implementing a solution like this is, a journey. Now, about Odoo. Now, I'm very confident not too many people would be familiar with Odoo, but it is a very, very powerful piece of software. So it is an all-in-one business management solution, and it is app-based as well. So it has an app for as you want when you need it. So things like CRM, accounting, invoicing, purchasing, HR, marketing, you name it, it has an app available for it. And it's an open source system as well. Kostas will go into a bit more about that also. But since it's open source, it makes it very, very easy to integrate with other solutions as well, whether it's through customizations or APIs. Now, things about the Odoo software itself, it is a huge community. It's over 2,800 partners globally. It's modular due to its app-based nature. So it's fully flexible and it can cater for any business, whether it's for one-man band starting off or larger organizations of 300, 400, 500,000 users. Bit of a cliche when it comes to software, but it is one of the unique things about Odoo is the user-friendly of it. A lot of things are just drag and drop. And like most modern software nowadays, it updates continuously too. Excuse me, going back. So key figures, Odoo as a company has a consistent 60% yearly growth, over 6 million satisfied users. It's based on all major continents. As one of the largest application libraries on the planet too. And as mentioned earlier as well, it has over 2,800 partners and counting. Now its positioning is quite unique. As you can see, the quadrant, it is placed high and to the right where any software would like to be, because it combines the uses of CRM and ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. It makes it a very unique solution. And because of that, because it's unique and they also release a new version every year, it evolves a lot quicker than any other solution too. And also it has third-party applications which enable the evolution to be quicker also. Now, some of Odoo references and what companies are currently using Odoo at the moment. You may not know the software itself, but you will know some of their current clientele, such as Shell Oil, Volkswagen Cars, Zesco as a services company, and IBM as well, who use it for their stock and inventory management. So guys, if any of you have any questions on Odoo as a product itself, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will ask them along the way. But without further ado, what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to hand it over to Kostas. It's going to take a bit more technical aptitude with it and what questions you should be asking yourself when undertaking this enormous task. So over to you, Kostas.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Hello, everybody. So let me give, first of all, a brief introduction about me. So my name is Kostas Paraskev. I come from Greece, and I'm working with implementations of CRM and ERP system for the past 12 years, and specifically with Odoo for the past 6 to 7 years. So I have prepared a presentation, and speak to you about 5 things that you need to know before implementing Odoo. That comes from the experience of us, implementing projects, plus the Odoo's experience and all the partner experience, together. So let me share my screen. Okay, is it visible, Gordon?
Yep, good to go.
Okay, so first thing to know about Odoo is that Odoo is an open source software. It has a community and an enterprise version, but there is one confusion many people have. Open source doesn't mean that it's free. That means that one thing that we used to say with clients is that with freedom comes responsibility. So Odoo has a huge amount of modules, applications, and partners that you can work with. You can implement different things, modules and applications. But still, that freedom means that you have to take care of the cost also that this will incur into your implementation. Don't over customize and keep it simple. One of the Odoo's, philosophies that the ERP should be simple enough. One of the common mistakes that the companies do, and we need to be aware of it before implementing our ERP system, is that we don't need to over customize the system. We need to keep it simple. We need to see what is important for us, and have in mind that every customization that we do has an impact on the cost of the implementation of the ERP system. Third point is that apart from, usually people start with, some requirements, they want to customize something, they install a module, etc. We need to take care, apart from the cost of the actual customization or handling the module, the maintenance cost that this will bring to our implementation into our system maintenance across the years. As Gordon said before, Odoo is evolving fast. They release one version every year, and that means that theoretically every year you will have some maintenance cost based depending on the customization that you have done. So that's a factor you need to address to make sure that you keep track of your cost of implementing the system, especially if you're a small business. The second point, as Gordon said, Odoo has a variety of applications. It has so many applications. It's modular. It has a e-commerce software. You buy application either from Odoo itself or from third-party vendors. But what is important here is that we need to be able to choose what is the right application to implement. Especially if you're a small company that is implementing Odoo, some people are overexcited. They get to see all these applications that are offered on various, horizontals and areas and domains of a business, and they try to implement everything. No, every app has its own cost, both for implementation and maintenance, and you need to be careful of what you need at which point of time. Eventually, it's a modular integrated system and you can install every application, but when you start implementing, you need to choose the right apps that suit your needs. Second thing is that on every ERP project and also in Odoo, we need to identify and prioritize what are our requirements. That can happen by initially using a gap analysis with your vendor, with your partner, to understand what are your actual needs, see which of them, prioritize them, do probably a Masco analysis, see what is important, what is not that important at that point of time. And this way you can control the scope, the budget of your project. Plus, you will be able to address the issue that most of the times, when you have too many requirements, that can create a scope creep that might lead to the implementation fail. Third thing, and which is important, and Odoo is building that strategy that we need to say no. So you need to trust your partner, especially when he says no. People come to us, we need to sell. So in theory, if someone comes to me and says, okay, I want to implement something, I want to add a new application, that's, it's a profit for the business and it's also a budget for a new project. Yet though, as consultants, we need to be able to see what is important. You need to be able to hear the partner and say, listen, don't implement that right now. It's not a good decision, etc. So you need to trust your partner because that's a journey that you have to take with him. Third one, as Gordon said, Odoo is a really user-friendly software, and that's actually one of the biggest competitive advantages that it has. It's also very intuitive and simple to use, but there is always a but. It is simple to use, but you should not have to neglect the training. So apart from the fact that it's quite intuitive and users can see what they do, etc., it's really important that we train the users properly, that we make sure that we address their needs, their worries, etc. At the end of the day, it's always a change that will happen, and no matter how simple it looks and it is, still you have to maintain that. The better you understand Odoo, the more you can get out of it. So usually what happens is like, as an engineer, the more we know about our car, etc., we try to do more things on our own. So the more you understand Odoo software, how does it work, how does it operate, and also being open source helps you in that direction. You can get more out of it. So you can get better decisions how to use the system itself, how to make the most out of it, etc. Especially, taking care of and understanding the direction that Odoo has in the sense of trying to simplify process in general and help companies grow. Again, though, one more point, sorry, before I jump to the next one, I need to go back, is that you need to understand Odoo, but you also have to put some limits. Again, with freedom comes responsibility. You need to put some limits and don't overdo that. Understand the software, try to get out of it, but there is always a limit that you have to be aware of. Finally, you need to give time to your employees to learn and adjust. Usually what happens, we have seen that in many cases, that a company starts a project, we start the implementation, employees get trained, but they're not given enough time. Both employees and managers, they're not given enough time to learn the system and adjust to the new reality, and that's quite important. Being intuitive and simple doesn't mean that you don't have to spend time to adjust. As I said, it's always a change, and we need to manage it if we want our project to succeed. Finally, fourth point is that Odoo is an ERP that evolves really fast. As Gordon said, and you have seen the initial slides, Odoo is releasing a new version every year. That means that before we implement Odoo, we need to simulate our processes. We need to make sure that Odoo system in the current version can support our processes. That means we should take it one by one, simulate that, and make sure that the outcome of the process is the one that we expect. Proper testing of the system before go live. One major point is that Odoo, especially on the SaaS version, is releasing new updates and bug fixes, etc. every week or every 2 weeks. So it is important for us that we test the system properly before we go live and make sure that at the current point, at the current version of the system that we're going to use, the system works fine, we don't have any bugs, etc. And that's something we have to do for every single process, and we should not neglect it, because we don't want to go live having a system that is not properly tested from the client's perspective. Finally, on this point is that you need to also make sure that you evolve with the system. The ERP system is the heart of the company. It's how it helps the company, the managers manage the company, and the users do their job. So we need to make sure that the same way that Odoo is evolving, it's adding new features, it's adding new models, new applications, etc. The same way we have to evolve. We have to catch up with this. We have to make, to take care of the progress, see what are the new changes that are happening in the system, see also what we need and what we don't need, because it might be a case that there is a new change, a new feature added, but you don't need that, and you don't want to upgrade to a new version. As Gordon said, Odoo is launching one major version almost every year, and that's why we say that it evolves quite fast. So it's up to you to decide how to evolve with it, or if you want to stay back and say, listen, currently we don't want a new feature, etc. We don't want to invest into creating, customizing or upgrading or porting the changes to a new system. Finally, Odoo is a really good system, but it can still fail. So how we can avoid that? First thing is that we need to select the right partner. Implementing the Odoo system is just the final destination where we're going to go, but selecting the right partner and also choosing, what is the perspective of the partner and what is the perspective of the client, and meet together on how we're going to implement the system. Sometimes we have seen that there are clients that we work really well together, but there are some other clients that we have debates, or we cannot see the same thing and be on the same side at the same time. So selecting the right partner is quite a crucial decision that will help you into implementing properly Odoo. Second point, make a proper plan. In Odoo, if you see the Odoo implementation as a project, we know what is the final destination, but still we want to make sure that we have a plan, beforehand, how we're going to reach that point, how we're going to implement the system, what will be the phases that we're going to use, what will be the training phases, how is the data import going to be, and so on. So every point of the implementation of the ERP system has to be properly planned in accordance with the client. And also we need to take, as we said before, we need to give users time. So the time management of the users and the employees that are going to use the system has to be taken under consideration to make sure that we give them enough space, to manage the change that is coming. Finally, Odoo for me, and I'm talking here as an Odoo expert, is that an ERP system expert. Odoo is a framework that can help you run your business. So you have to use it properly. You have to understand it, because it tries to bring a new philosophy of simplification of processes. So it is important that you understand it, that you are relying on it, and at the same time that you try to adjust your company also at some points, because as we said initially, we don't want to over customize things. So sometimes it's better to take a decision to simplify a process and drive along with what Odoo is proposing as a process. especially if you don't have one. Okay, so you can utilize this framework and help your company grow. So these are the 5 points that I had. We can go to some questions if you have any. Gordon?
When it comes to,
yeah.
sorry, there's one question I was going to ask myself actually for my own benefit. When it comes to, because Odoo has a free version as well, but doesn't have the same capabilities.
Yeah.
When it comes, yeah. So when it comes to how does a company recognize, I suppose most softwares won't do everything you want straight out of the box because there's no such thing as a perfect system. But how do you recognize when it's time to move on from the free version onto the enterprise version?
Okay. Yeah, Odoo has a free version, and it also has and you can also find a lot of partners publishing modules and applications that they are actually trying to match the features that Odoo Enterprise is selling, actually is implementing. Again, for me, the crucial point there is whether you see that the actual cost of investment that you have to install and to install, maintain, and buy those apps and also customize them is the same, and compare it with the cost that of Odoo Enterprise, the licensing cost that Odoo Enterprise has, okay, for the feature that it gives you. Odoo invests a lot of money, and they're a big company. They have a lot of funding, and they invest a lot of money in creating new features. And sometimes, trying to cope with that, small partners trying to cope with that, they will actually fail. So for me, it's actually a bargain that you have to see. Okay, how much does all this feature cost, and what do I get as a benefit from using Odoo, all the bug fixes and new features? Comparing, to finding the applications on my own, installing them, maintaining them, and also upgrade them and porting them to the next version. Because that's also one more point here, that if you have a custom application that you use on Odoo community version and you want to port it to another version, you have to go back to the partner and do that. While Odoo, when their feature is there, they make sure that they will port this application for free, and that is what the license cost also that you're paying. It's part of your licensing cost.
Cool. We have 4 questions here, 5 questions, excuse me, Kostas. Hope you don't mind asking them. So the first one is from Shibav Handy. What are all the hosting types available in Odoo Enterprise Edition?
What are the hosting options? So first of all, there is Odoo SaaS, which is the SaaS and cloud platform of Odoo. It's totally free. You don't pay anything for maintaining the application. There is, of course, a license cost for the application, but not for the server structure and maintaining that. The second option is Odoo SH, which is actually one of the disadvantage of Odoo SaaS platform. You cannot create your own custom modules and program this. So although it's open source, you are not able to do changes on the code and hack Odoo code. Then the second option is the Odoo SH, okay, which is trying to actually bridge the problem of Odoo SaaS that you cannot customize. So it is a cloud platform which is actually maintained by Odoo themselves. That also gives you the ability to create your own custom modules and deploy your own code. Finally, the third option, which is always there, is on-premise. So you can have your own server and host Odoo on your own server and premises. These are the 3 options.
Cool. I was going to ask, so Aidan Magner, he has 2 questions here for us. So the portability of data between legacy systems and Odoo, what are the pitfalls here? And what is better, a big bang transformation, excuse me, or a one module at a time solution?
Okay, so I will first respond to the second question because it's similar to understand. So the decision between going on phases, one module at a time, or a big bang transformation depends on the company. It also depends on the project. What is the scope of the project? How many applications do you want to install? Do you want to implement? Also, it depends on the time that you have, and the capabilities that you have as a company, the time you can allocate, etc. As with in general, in the project, it's good to use a divide and conquer approach and try to split that. But for me, what is important is no matter what is the approach, what is important is to decide what are the core modules that you want to implement, what are the core functionalities that you want to start with, okay, and start getting some return of investment from using the system, and then see how you can add more application. Okay, but as I said, there are multiple factors to decide that, and that's also a decision that the partner has to take with the client together. They need to analyze the information that they have, the scope, what does the client want, what is the budget, the timing, and then have a decision. So there is no, there is not only one answer there in this question. Now, concerning the portability of data between legacy systems and Odoo. Odoo is an open source system. It has APIs. It has an XML RPC API, and you can also find REST APIs that support that you can transfer data between systems. Also, Odoo offers the ability of importing data straight to the system and exporting data into CSV or Excel format. So it's quite flexible in that regard. You can always, when we do a new implementation and want to import data, we usually use CSV files and import it unless there is a huge load of data and you have to use automated mechanism and the REST API for that. So yeah, there are options there, and you can always, port your data either inside Odoo to import them or get them out.
Aidan, I hope that answers your question. If not, feel free to reach out to us directly. For everybody attending, we will offer you a free 1 hour of consultation. So we have another question here from Palevi Nirvan. How engineering changes can be applied to a product in Odoo? How can engineering changes can be applied to a product in Odoo 15?
How engineering changes can be applied to a product in Odoo 15? Is it for the manufacturing? Is it about the manufacturing module of Odoo? I don't understand the question here.
Palevi, if you could give it a bit more relevance on it there, I suppose expand on it a bit more. We'll return to you. I will just move on to the next question until that happens.
Yep.
So we have a question from Mohammed. What do you advise for a startup going on to Odoo?
For a startup going to Odoo, okay. I would advise them to use Odoo out of the box. Because again, you don't want to go into customizing the system complicating the implementation, because that will allow you to have a huge return on investment. You will get the Odoo features out of the box. Usually, when you're a startup and you're in the initial, steps of your process of your business, you don't have, that many complex processes or that many processes on all your domains. So it will be good, to use a system out of the box, utilize the processes how they have set up. You just need to make sure that the final outcome of the process is the one that you need to conform to your basic requirements. But in general, I think that it's a good, let's say, decision to go with Odoo. Plus the fact that, as we said before, you can go one module at a time. So it doesn't mean that you have to spend a huge amount of money, okay, to implement all modules at the same time. So you're a startup, you want to invest slowly on something, you can go with Odoo and do that, in phases and using one application at a time based on your return on investment and what is more important for you at that point of time.
And we've one from Rini. Can we customize Odoo to our business needs, and can we migrate Odoo with the latest version at any time?
Okay, so I will start with the second part. So can we migrate Odoo with latest version at any point of time? So if you are on Odoo Enterprise, Odoo migrates. You can migrate your version at the next version. If you are on Odoo SaaS, Odoo does that automatically for you, which means that your Odoo SaaS platform will provide you a button that you can just click, you can test, and that Odoo will migrate your data to the next version. If you are on Odoo SH, still the same thing. It's an automated way. You can always do that. And when you are on-premise or where you're coming from Odoo Community, because you can even migrate to an enterprise version if you're using Odoo Community. Odoo has an infrastructure and has an infrastructure where you can upload your database. Odoo will do the migration. You have to make sure that you migrate your custom modules, of course, because they're not migrated by Odoo, but your data will be migrated. So all your data will be migrated. And Odoo guarantees that if you are on Odoo SH, if you're using, Odoo Enterprise, and you are on Odoo SH or on Odoo SaaS, the migration will happen, free by Odoo. Now, can we customize Odoo to our business need? Yes, you can customize Odoo to your business needs. But as I said in the presentation, you have to be careful with that. Don't over customize. Make sure that you know exactly what you need. Make sure that there is some cost on the customization that you can get it back. So do a return on invest analysis, before you start customizing. And one thing that I always say is that Odoo is an open source software, and you can see the actual code and how it works. Okay, against other ERP system where you don't have to, where you cannot see actually how the system works itself. So that means that it gives you more flexibility, okay, into transforming and customizing this. But you have to be careful, okay? You have to be responsible, and also you have to make sure that you get something back. So there is a return on investment from this, customization that you're doing, and that you also to make sure that you do need this, and this is an actual requirement and an important one.
Put myself on mute instead of taking it off mute. Sorry. How Pallavi has the same question: how engineering changes can be applied to a product in Odoo 15. Pallavi, if you want to reach out to us directly, because we do need you to expand on that, what you mean, that'd be perfect. We can offer you a 3-hour consultation around, as well as that question. Does anyone else have any questions? Let me just check another. So, anonymously, everyone I've spoken to says that upgrading to new Odoo versions causes a lot of trouble and is costly. Why is this?
Why is that? So, as I said before, if you run on an Odoo implementation, you have a lot of customizations, either functional customization or code customizations, then yes, you might run into troubles. Why? Because Odoo guarantees that there is no change in the current version, okay, in the infrastructure and the models and the application. But when you change any version, you create a new version, you might have conflicts. That means that all your applications, okay, if they are affected by this change, by this upgrade, have to be ported to the next version, which means that if this is the case, if your customization has this type of a nature, okay, that you have to upgrade it, you might have to upgrade the application every single year. Okay, and that's why, as consultants, we try to see how we can do functional customizations, which, by the way, are easier and less costly to upgrade, because they take advantage of the current user of the current system. And Odoo is trying also, because they want to minimize the cost of maintenance upgrade. If you do your upgrade and your customization functionally in respect to the code guidelines of Odoo, then I can tell you that this cost will be minimum. But there will be cost if you have to port this application. It's not always happening, but if you do run into a situation where you have to port your application, that will incur costs. Other than that, data themselves, so the basic applications of Odoo, if you actually remove all the, let's say, if you remove all your customizations, upgrading is just a click of a button, okay? If you have customizations, every single one has to be tested thoroughly, has to make sure that there are no bugs there, etc. It doesn't affect the operation of the system before you upgrade to the next version. That is the difference, and this is where the cost comes.
Perfect. Thanks, Kostas. Again, if you do want to expand on that further, feel free to reach out to us directly. I don't see that we have any other questions at all. So, Kostas, thanks so much for your time. And everybody else, everybody who has taken the time out of their day to join us for this webinar, I hope you found it very, very beneficial. I hope you learned something. And again, any other queries, as I keep saying, feel free to reach out to us. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you again for your time. And
thank you very much.
See you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.